Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Martin Willis, your host. We had a little get together with Chris Lito and friends, and we watched it was a hearing party, I guess you would call it. We watched the whole thing live, which was really interesting. And my guest tonight is Dave Scott. He's having issues with we'll figure it out, right, Dave? I can see you back in there. I think he has to use his phone instead of his computer tonight. But anyway, he should be right back. Joining us here in a minute. So just to talk about a couple of things, we will be talking about the hearing a bit tonight on this show. And also just to give what's going on, I think it was a great hearing. I really do. I thought Dylan Borland I think his name was an extremely good witness. Perhaps I would say, daringly say, probably one of the better witnesses they've ever had. So I thought it was great. I didn't get to make it there this time, unfortunately. I was sad about that after I saw how incredible it was. I wasn't as thrilled last time. And, the weird thing about being at the hearing, when I was there last time, I'm going to just show the picture of where I was. I was right in the middle, so I could not hear. I could barely hear anything going on. And when you're sitting in your home and live streaming, it's pretty nice. But there's nothing like being there and talking with people and all that. So our blog this week is a 1981 Men in Black report from British Columbia, Canada, written by Charles Lear. He'll be doing a follow-up to that next week. I'm excited to say next Tuesday we have Bill Chalker, the longtime Australian ufologist. I've been trying to get him on I looked and I had sent him an email back in 2016 trying to get him on. Finally, he said yes. So he'll be on this coming Tuesday. And I think that's it for me. I want to thank everyone that supports the show. Anyone can do that over at, you go to our website, podcastufo.com. You'll see support the show, Patreon, any way you like there. We also have merchandise and all that. So without further ado, I'm bringing in Dave. Welcome, Dave.
Hi, Martin. How you doing today?
Hey, that's your phone? You're using a phone right now?
I am.
That's better than your computer. You might also can all that stuff. Yeah, no, it's great. It looks really good. Sounds good. All great. So good to have you here. We got to meet in person up in Northern California last spring, and finally we got to meet and hang out, and that was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun, a lot of great talks.
It was a lot of fun, and I tell you, for people who've never met Martin Willis, let me tell you this: he is one of the classiest individuals I have ever met in this field, and I mean that not just because I'm on your show with you, Martin, but I think we've developed a friendship and a kinship that really understands this entire market, and you're just so smart and so knowledgeable that it's just a real pleasure to not only call you a cohort, but a friend as well.
Well, thank you. I feel quite the same. I really felt like we connected, and you do shows all the time. I don't know how you do it. I changed to 2 times a week, and I feel like, and plus I'm really busy with real world work. So I don't know how you do it every night. How?
Stupidity.
I know you said something about, well, at least you're not late. You'd sit on the couch if you didn't do that or something like that. I forgot what you said.
I would be.
Yeah.
I'm a night owl, and not only, for people who don't know me, I'm a journalist by trade. That's what I went to college for. I spent 10 years in terrestrial radio, mainly working in sports, and I loved radio. The only crappy thing about working in terrestrial radio, especially on the journalism side, is it doesn't pay very well. And so I'm also an experiencer as well. So with that happening and combining the both, and I didn't know when I was having my experiences start in 2011 through 2014, I just decided that I was going to start something up and at the convincing of a friend of mine, and that I would just start Spaced Out Radio and kind of see where it went. And You know, 10 years, I'm coming up 11 years in November. I can't believe I've been doing it this long, and I don't know whether I've wasted 11 years or whether I have made roads into it. But I mean, the main thing is the love of the subject, number one, love of the people. I'm not a big, where you and I are kind of polar opposite is you're very nuts and bolts. You're very scientific. You're very methodical in what you do. And I consider you a brainiac, and I mean that with all compliment. Whereas I'm more on the woo side of things, where as much as I love learning about the technologies, as much as I love learning about what's going on, the governmental side of everything, what still gets to me is a good story. When you have somebody who has an incredible story and an adventure or an experience that just is so unexplainable, and it doesn't matter whether it's just UFOs. I mean, it could be paranormal, it could be a near-death experience, Bigfoot, or whatever it is. I just love those encounters. And, I'm not a where's the proof kind of guy. I'm all about how do you feel? How did it feel when you saw that dogman? How did it feel when you saw that UFO landed in your backyard? And I think in today's UFO world, we tend to kind of shun the experiencer a little bit because this subject has taken off on such a governmental landscape. I just want to tell people stories, man. And I think that's, for me, where the love is.
I see. I had a conversation years ago with Greg Bishop, and he's a great guy. I really like him a lot. And he said something like he talked to someone that had a UFO experience, and he said that when they left the house, they noticed there was a purple teddy bear on that they had never seen before in a chair. He said, I want to hear stuff like that because it's so bizarre and it really doesn't make any sense. And those are the ones to pay attention to, those type of stories. So, it is kind of weird. And I don't think it can get weird enough sometimes when people start, like, for instance, if I meet someone somewhere and they start telling me a story and they say, well, I really don't want to say this, but, because it sounds crazy, but this is what happened. And those are real genuine to me. So I like the stories too. And so we should talk a little bit about the hearing, considering I wrote that in the beginning. First of all, I want to show everyone a video that I stole so they can check it out. I think it's very, very interesting. And I do believe, I can almost hear Mick West, what he's going to say now about it. But it is acting very peculiar. And here it is right here. It's only 35 seconds long. Here it goes. And you can see this thing floating along after it was struck by a missile. Now, when you see it struck by this missile, the missile does not fuse. It does not blow up, which is very strange. Here it goes again. And you see the debris floating by. We don't know how fast this thing is going, how much it was slowed down or whatever. We don't know if it's going down toward the water right now, how high up it was. We don't know anything. But anyway, I thought it's a very interesting video regardless. And,
yeah, I thought that too. And I don't know enough about the military side of things and why that Hellfire missile, if that's indeed what it was, didn't explode. Because from what I do know about Hellfire missiles, and please, if you've served in the military, please correct me if I'm wrong, but by the time you lock on to an object and the missile gains its target, you have within 1 minute of firing it. Otherwise, it will explode within your launcher. So these things are pretty difficult and very dangerous pieces of equipment. So the fact that this was launched and did not explode, if it was a Hellfire missile, I find that very, very odd. And it's something that I want to do more research on because it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm going to call my military people that I know to say, hey, was that a Hellfire missile or was it rebranded as something else? But said it was, because doesn't it need to explode once it makes contact? Now, if it is a UFO, maybe it shut off the detonation system. We don't know. We have to go on the word of it right now.
That's right. And, there's been a lot of speculation. When I was talking to Chris Lito, who was an F-16 pilot, he is saying that they are made so they can go through, like if they hit a bird, for instance, they're not going to go off. They have to hit something really, substantial before that will detonate. But they also have a laser thing that kind of makes it, as it gets close to the object, it can fuse that way. He calls it fusing when they actually blow up. And so we looked at examples online of one of those that actually did blow up and hitting a target, and it absolutely blew up. So a couple of things. First of all, my thoughts are, if this was a balloon, which I'm sure that's what Mick West is going to say, why would they waste such an expensive piece of hardware on it? Because I don't know what those things cost, but they have to cost a ton of money, and that would just fall into the sea eventually. So why would they do that unless it was like another Chinese spy balloon or something like that, which I think I told you I was right underneath it when that thing was shot. But anyway, there's a lot of questions. This is what it brings up, a lot of questions, that video, I think.
I agree. I mean, the thing with the two videos that were released today during the hearings, the one in California and now the one near Yemen, off the coast of Yemen. How come we're still getting grainy videos?
These are FLIR videos. So that one was in particular.
I understand that, but I guess I look at I side on the side of the population here, where we have all of these technologies. I mean, you look at the James Webb telescope, where we can see other universes in clarity, and yet, this is like rotary dial telephones on the videos that they're sending us. And we know the cameras are much better than what they are on these sophisticated aircraft that are being flown, whether it's a FA-18 Super Hornet or whether it's an F-35. We know that they are out there. We know that they are better. I know this is part of the conspiracy, part of the problem. But once again, I mean, it reminds me of the Tic Tac, Go Fast and Gimbal. I found the videos to be very disappointing. Like, here we go again, the D-League type of videos that we're getting. But I loved what George Knapp said to Congress today, where he said there is like a treasure trove of servers within the Pentagon that have hundreds of these type of videos that nobody knows about, that nobody sees. And the fact that he brought that up on the hearings today, I thought it was absolutely fantastic, because even though I believe that the this transparency group, which I like to call the conspiracy club, comes in and wants to talk about all these subjects, I often wonder how deep are they really going? How much do they really know? Yes, they've sat in skiffs. Yes, they've talked to people behind the scenes. But I think it's time. I think we're mature enough, Martin, that we could handle a better quality video.
Yeah, and I'm sure it may have been taken in tandem with another camera at the same time. I would imagine a lot of them are. By the way, I know you meant to say galaxies, not universes, when you said that. We can see other.
Thank you.
Oh well, we may be seeing other universes. We don't know. It could be bunches of them. As far as what do they call that? The brain, the other theory of all the universes out there.
Man,
I'm getting into quantum stuff. Yeah. But yeah, it's well, I thought it was. I liked this hearing better than the last one, and I was in the audience in the two previous ones. I felt the first one was very historic, just because it was what it was for the first time in many, many years. The first one with witnesses under oath. The last one, I wasn't real thrilled about it, and I froze to death to be there in the middle of the audience. This time would have been a much better time of year to be waiting in line in the middle of the night. But still, I kind of regretted not going after I watched how it worked today. I thought it was a good hearing.
I thought, in my opinion, that Dylan Borland and George Knapp stole the show.
Yeah. Dylan
I
was
don't go ahead.
amazing. His testimony. Yeah. The
I,
best.
I didn't think that that Wiggins and Nuccitelli, I believe is the way you pronounce it, Nuccitelli. I don't, I think they're pretty. I did take notes. Like, look, I actually took notes.
Oh yeah.
But I, I, I thought Wiggins was interesting because he was on the USS Jackson that got that video, and he is still currently serving. I thought that was really great, but I don't think
No.
him and Nuccitelli really brought much to the table. But George Knapp, God bless him. He finally got his day in court, so to speak, to talk
Yeah.
about this. And I think with the extremely limited time that he spent with it, he actually, set off some fireworks there. But I was more amazed, like I'm going to assume you were too, by Dylan Borland. I mean, this is a gentleman that
Yeah.
none of us had heard of. And literally, he has had his life ruined, his career ruined. The guy
Mm-hmm.
is 4 to 6 weeks away from having his employment insurance run out after he's been blackballed for becoming a whistleblower on this point. I
Yeah.
talked to someone else this afternoon about this subject, about Dylan Borland, and he literally said, Dave, that's exactly what happened to me when I started going. He goes, it cost me a lot of money in my retirement that I will never, ever get back. But I believe in this subject so much that I was willing to forego a very comfortable retirement because of it.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. For the people that have not seen this, I will link the original stream into the show notes down below so you can watch it. It's still, it'll be up. I think it'll be up on YouTube for. I don't think there's any reason it would ever be taken down. So it's definitely worth watching. And as far as what Dylan's testimony basically is, this object that he saw, he was only about 100 feet away from it, distance-wise, and over his head. It was a black triangle. The metal, he saw a 90-degree angle on, as it, he could see like a 90-degree angle. Interestingly, he says it almost looked like a liquid. There was like a liquid underneath it. Kind of reminded me a little bit of what Jonathan Wygant talks about, the craft that he saw in Peru. He then said there was a light on each corner and a larger light in the center. And how many times have we heard something like that?
Right.
And then once it shot up to about the height of a commercial aircraft, which is like 30,000 feet, when it shot up, there was no sound barrier broken. There was no air displacement. I mean, how can these things be explained like that? And the only way it looked like a star instantly because he could see the center light, up above him. And that's an incredible encounter to me. And he felt as though the military knew what it was, and that's
Yes.
another spin on the whole thing.
Yeah, Congressman Perry, I actually wrote that down. Congressman Perry actually asked Borland, whatever you saw involves the U.S. government. He says that is 100% my opinion then and now. So, I mean, this is where the UAP aspect comes into play. And I don't want to go into that whole UFO versus UAP debate, and I liked what Tim Burchett said, that can we get back to calling them UFOs? I like that better.
Yeah.
And I was like cheering when I heard that, just to bring in a little humor, Martin, because you and I have talked about that before. But, with Borland, the one thing that, for people who don't know him, I got some notes here. I'll just break them down. He's a former intel specialist for the United States Air Force, former analyst, video expert. He was a whistleblower to AARO. And what I got out of it, maybe you did too, Martin, was that he went through what he was supposed to do, what was laid out to him if you had an encounter that you couldn't explain, that was bothering you, and you wanted to talk about it. Everybody said, well, you need to report this to AARO. And it just sounded like after he gave his statement to AARO, that's when everybody started throwing him under the bus. And now he can't get a job. He doesn't get his pension. He doesn't get anything for doing the proper channels. And this is a guy who I think you would consider him a patriot to the United States. He worked hard. I mean, you don't become an intel specialist for the Air Force or a video analysis expert if you're a dummy. You and I couldn't do that. Many other people couldn't do that. It's not just watching TV, it's analyzing every frame of every video. And for him to get thrown under the bus for following protocol, that's the dangerous part. And that's where he said there's no point in whistleblowers coming out if we got no protection. And I found that from all of the speakers outside of George Knapp, that it was really trying to force Congress, basically saying, we want to come out and speak. There are hundreds of people like us who want to come out and speak, but we can't, because they saw what happened to David Grush. They've seen what happened to Dylan Borland and many others who have been ostracized because of UFOs. And I thought that was pretty much the big topic of the day. Your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to touch on another thing that I thought was quite a hot topic too, or interesting phrase. But first of all, just before I forget, Katie Page is coming up this Thursday at 8 p.m. She had to cancel last week, and she's on this week, and I just neglected to say that in the beginning. I do think that was very much the hot topic, and how, kind of what the hearing was about, transparency and protection for whistleblowers. So I do believe that, and I sure hope that good things come Dylan's his way, and he's able to get his feet back on the ground. But I thought one of the most profound statements, and before I forget, I just wanted to say this, was Nuccicelli, when they asked him what he felt after he had his encounter, and that he said, well, the first thing I did is I went inside to see if anyone was abducted. Did you hear him say that?
You know what? I missed that part.
Yeah.
Damn it. I'm sorry. I missed that part.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was profound, and it was like came out of nowhere. And nobody even followed up on that. You would think someone would say, well, can you elaborate a little more on that? But that was quite a statement.
The other thing that I noticed was, and it started with Anna Paulina Luna really cracking down, calling Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick a liar. And it seemed like everybody just jumped on that bandwagon that AARO needs to go in the garbage, that it needs to be disbanded or completely revamped again. That it seems, I believe the quote was, it was some sort of, where did I put it here? AARO is acting like a counterintelligence to the American system. And George Knapp had stated that. And that, he brought up the names Bob Jacobs and Robert Sala, how AARO completely dismissed their stories. And so people like Knapp were saying, what is the purpose of AARO if all they are doing is shooting down everybody's testimony, which is affecting their lives?
And also, if you remember, Kirkpatrick, before he left office, he said that he had not heard from any firsthand witnesses, and that was as big a BS as there is.
Well, and to take that a little further from these talks, there's photographic evidence of that. When he was denying that he ever met privately to talk about Skinwalker Ranch with Brandon Fugel. And Fugel was like, we got you on camera, dude.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, showed the receipts of the photos on X. And it's amazing to me that there's people out there who are still supporting Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick after he was caught lying. He's been caught lying so many times. And yet these people still believe that he was actually, doing his job properly. I mean, I don't get that. I have a daytime job. If I lied as much as Kirkpatrick, I'd be fired.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be gone with a pension. I would be fired.
Well, I think AARO is like window dressing. It was there to try to, it's kind of like, it's to calm the public or whatever, like things seem to be moving too fast. We better put this together and kind of, cushion it. kind of arbitrate some of this and all that. So that's my, opinion, that because I don't think I think part of them was serious, but not all the way through. Like the website was interesting. I haven't looked out on it lately, but there were some things that I thought, well, maybe they are making some type of effort. But I really don't think so. I mean, I had Tim Phillips on the show, the acting director, after, and I thought he was pretty genuine, more, considering he followed Kirkpatrick. He didn't have a bad word to say about any of Kirkpatrick's work, which of course, he wouldn't, being in his position. And shortly after, he was fired for doing podcasts with myself and other people.
You got him fired. Shame on
I
you.
did.
Mark.
Well,
shame on you.
But yeah, hopefully he won't. Someone with all his years, I'm sure his pension won't be affected in any type of way. I don't think so. I'm sure he'll be fine.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't know what it would be like to go under the stress of knowing, let's say you worked for the United States government for 25, 30 years, and, because you see a UFO and you report it, that everything collapses on top of you because you join the UFO world. I mean, that just, I took that really, really hard. But, one of the things that I did notice about this thing, and, being a fellow journalist, I've never been as good as George Knapp. I was never I want to clarify, I was never an investigative journalist. I was a sports journalist. I was the dude who literally, after a football game or a hockey game, you see all the media kind of scrum in there with their microphones. That was me.
Yeah.
That's what I did. And well, I got to see a lot of free sports games and play a lot of free golf, man. So it was worth it on that end. But the big thing for me with George Knapp was how many Easter eggs he laid out that nobody caught on to. Whether it was the Bob Lazar story, whether it was, dropping names like Bob Jacobs or Michael Sala. Right at the end, he was asked about who are the gatekeepers, and everybody is sitting silent there. And all of a sudden, Knapp you can see him kind of say, well, screw this,
Yeah.
And he mentioned two names, Dr. James Ryder from Lockheed Martin, which he threw right in their faces a couple of times, Lockheed Martin. And then from the CIA, Glenn Gaffney. I mean, these are names for people like you and me, we're going to have to look these up to find out, who these people are, what are they all about, and what was their role. But when you're in that deep, like George Knapp is, and you have names and you get called to Congress, as a journalist, he's protected under, I believe I think it's the Fourth Amendment down there. Is it the Fourth Amendment?
When it's journalism, I'm not sure. Ooh, we have the Second Amendment, but that's freedom of speech. But I don't know what the fourth.
I think journalism is the Fourth Amendment or something like that. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
All right.
I'm just a Canadian guy.
That's right.
But he also threw out Robert Bigelow's name a couple of times. And we have not heard Robert Bigelow be a part of any of these discussions up until this date. I thought it was fantastic. And I think, if they end up doing more hearings, I would love to see them, sequester Robert Bigelow. Let's see what Bigelow has to say.
It says it's under the First Amendment that protects also.
Okay. So thank you.
Yeah. But anyway, I thought I was really, at first I thought, why is George Knapp on this list? I was thinking that at first, and then he really, really did an amazing job. I thought I was really impressed with, I had a little bit of a beef against him because I had a interview set up with him when I was out in Phoenix, and I waited for over an hour. I kept texting him, and finally he said, "Who are you anyway?" And I said, "What? I'm the one who connected you with Chris Mellon. I'm the one who connected you with this person, that person." And he goes, "Will you do a show on UFOs?" I said, "Yeah." At the time I said, "Yeah, for 10 years." And I was like, but someone stopped him in the hallway and he decided to get interviewed by them when he left me waiting there. But anyway, I'm over it. He proved himself today, and so I think he did a wonderful job. I'm really glad he was there and said what he did today. Now, there was the Russian documents, and that was really interesting. Last week, I had two people on who, opera singer Natalia Stikko, whose father had all these Russian documents that talk about, it looks like reverse engineering UFOs from whenever in the 90s or whenever it was all documented, all handwriting and all types of mathematical quotations and things like that. So that's very interesting. And George was not really interested in looking at them. I don't really know why. I think they're really quite astounding.
Well, it was amazing how he got the paperwork out, because the Russians
Yeah.
apparently only stamped the top page as being top secret. So he ripped the top pages off and then, put a couple of jars of caviar over the paperwork in his suitcase to
That's
kind
what
of
he said. Yeah.
disguise it on the way home. And that's the way he got this paperwork out. But he was talking to a Dr. Boris Sokolov, is his name. And apparently this Dr. Sokolov got in big trouble after Knapp came out saying that he got UFO classified documents out of Russia, So what he did say was that Russia was doing the exact same thing as the United States, where they were trying to reverse engineer craft, trying to rebuild the technology, but much like the US government was not having any success at that point. But this is going back, 20 years ago now, or whatever it may be. I was a little disappointed that they focused in on the Russian documents. I didn't think that they were imperative for today's conversation. There was a great I wrote this down specifically because there was great dialogue between Tim Burchett and George Knapp, when Burchett basically said, "What do we got to do to get this out?" And Knapp said, "Unleash the dogs and go track down the money and see where it goes."
That's right.
He
It's
goes,
the money.
a lot of this stuff has been moved out of government. It's been given to private contractors who stashed it away, have had it for so long. There's nobody left inside the government, or very few, who even know where it is. And then Burchett follows up and says to keep it all keep it all from FOIA. And Knapp agreed on that. He said the contractors are setting their own standards about who is allowed to know what, and finds it that it's a very small group that are actually making these decisions on the UFO story for the American public.
Fascinating. Yeah. All really, really great stuff all the way around. So yeah, if anyone, we're going to move on to, I'd like to talk about our next topic. So anyone in the chat, if you have questions for us tonight, please do put them in caps. And thank you all for being here. So Tim is saying hi to you, Dave, Anonymous Rex.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a big fan of yours.
Big
and
fan
out
of his too.
from out in your direction, right? Isn't he in Seattle?
Tim's he's in Oregon.
Oregon,
he's in Oregon. But Tim actually came up here in 2023, and we're going to get into the Flight 21 topic here. And I don't know if you talk with Tim privately, Martin, but Tim will never go back to that location.
Oh, on that island, wherever it is, right off of Seattle.
No, this is my location that we are investigating up here.
Oh, just a second. Okay, we'll get back to that, but I just want to pull this question up that Polly put here. Any info on the CIA guy that Knapp's name dropped? And yes, I have to say that someone wrote me very, very recently about and dropped this CIA agent's name and said he was very involved in the UFO topic, but I have not had time to even look into him. Gaffney, what is his last name again?
Gaffney, Glenn Gaffney.
Glenn Gaffney. So someone had written me recently, and I'm talking within a week, this person's name, because I recognized it as soon as he said it. But I'm not sure. I don't really know anything about him, but I know there'll be people looking now find out what he's about. So, yes, so Tim will never go back to that island again. No, I did not know that. And actually, I'm going to be talking to him in the next couple of days.
Yeah, ask him about it.
Yeah.
Ask him about Tim. Actually, after a 2-year voice of silence, he actually came on my show a couple of months ago, and we talked about the subject on air. And what scared him was a UFO encounter and alien beings on the ground.
I don't know if I had talked to him about. He's been on my show, but I can't remember if he actually.
Make
brought,
sure you hit that up.
Yeah.
I know he's listening.
Yeah.
He's probably like, "Geez, Dave, shut up right now. Shut up." You know, but
yeah,
it's an amazing story, very much so.
Right. Well, I'm going to get him back on the show and have him talk about it. So
Good.
we'll all be talking about that soon. So anyway, yeah, let's hear. Okay, so I wanted to find out when you mentioned that you've been doing an investigation. So this basically an overview. There was a Canadian Pacific Airlines Flight 21. It was a Douglas DC-6B that crashed after an in-flight explosion in the left lavatory near 100 Mile House, Dog Creek area, British Columbia. All 52 occupants, 46 passengers, and 6 crew perished. So anyway, that's what happened, but it's basically what's happened after in that area that you've been investigating, right?
We first investigated Flight 21 back in 2018, where my paranormal friend, we call him Merle, from Paranormal Road Trippers out of Vancouver. We still think to this day it may have been the first ever paranormal investigation at the Flight 21 crash site. Now, getting there is difficult because it is, I'm trying to translate it from kilometers to miles. It's about 30 miles from here, from where I am right now. And we went there to try and see what was happening with the spirits and ghosts that are still there. Maybe there was. And that day ended up being a much different change of my life and Merle's life and our friend Mark's life, because we actually ended up being chased out of the forest by Sasquatch that day. And
not a visual, but was there a visual?
We heard them talk. We heard them move around us. The area where this is, Martin, you have to understand, and I don't say this out of ignorance or anything like that, but most people have never been deep in a forest. Okay, like where I live in a town of 2,500 people. You mentioned 100 Mile House. There's about 2,500 people in my area. The majority of those people don't even know where Flight 21 is. And you have to drive deep into the forest to the southwest of town. And this plane crash, I mean, there's still debris there. They went and brought back some of the debris after they did the investigation because family said, can you leave us something of a memorial here that we could come back to year after year? And July 5th or July 8th of this year, it was the 60th anniversary of that plane crash. So we have been going up there for a few years now, trying to figure out the whole Sasquatch thing. And it really started taking off in 2023 when Tim was up here. And it is very much a location that has a lot of high strangeness to it. And Martin, I would tell you point blank that I believe this is another version of Skinwalker Ranch.
Wow.
Yeah. It's very difficult to talk about sometimes, okay? But we have had UFO encounters. We've had a UFO landing. We've had the aliens walking through the trees. We've been escorted out of the forest twice by Sasquatch. We've had sightings of Sasquatch in the area, just brief glimpses. We've had ghost activity. We've caught EVPs. The scariest thing that's happened to me there with my research partner, Tim James, different Tim, was earlier this year. We actually, probably 12 weeks ago now, We actually feel that we were being lured into the forest by a skinwalker or a Wendigo, by them mimicking a woman's voice saying, "Help me, I'm over here, help me." There are no people where we are. There is one way in and one way out, and it is a goat trail to get there. You could just get a vehicle through there. And it's one of these areas, Martin, where you wish you were exaggerating, because everybody's always like, "Oh, I've got the great hot spot for hauntings," or "I've got that area for Bigfoot," or "I've got that Skinwalker Ranch." It's easy to throw out those examples, but to actually be there and take part in it like we do every week, we go up there. It's different every week, and there's been times when we've been scared out, and there's been times where we were like, "Hey, that was a cool night," and yet we keep going back. It's a very
You go there. You go there every week, you're saying?
Yes.
Wow, that's dedication.
We do it for two reasons. Number one, how this all started was last year in 2024, we went back and we filmed in that area again when we got escorted out of the forest at about 1:00 in the morning. We figured the one got within about 20 yards of us. It is pitch black there. Okay, there is no city lights, there's no light pollution, there's nothing outside of the stars and moon and the flashlights that you have. There is no light out there, and we figure the one got within about 20 yards of our team, basically telling us to get out. And how we knew they followed us out was when we started to drive away. Right behind us there were high-pitched whistles, kind of like they were signaling that, okay, they're gone. I mean, it is active. Now my theory on it is that the crash site was the cause, but what is the effect of what's going on? Like, I'm not there, and we're not there to try and solve the mystery, because this case is still actually an open investigation. It is Canada's largest unsolved mass murder. That is, that's 60 years old, and I don't think they'll ever solve who was the one who actually detonated the bomb or put the bomb on board. They have 4 suspects, but they've never been able to, RCMP, that is, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, have never been able to pinpoint who actually did it. And maybe one day the technology will be there where it will be a closed case. But we don't investigate the crash site. We're not there to try and find the who, what, where, who done it kind of thing. We're not the Sherlock Holmes of the area. We're there because we're trying to figure out, why is this high strangeness going on in this area of tragedy? Now, my personal woo opinion of it is, I believe that Sasquatch is watching over the spirits there. We know that there are spirits there. We've caught them on tape. We've even had one name mentioned on a recording a couple of years ago. But I don't think, and maybe I'm romanticizing it, I don't know. I could be. It's my first ever investigation that I'm doing. What I'm doing and what Tim is doing, we don't know, because we've never been investigators or researchers before. Okay, we're just out there trying to figure out what is going on and why it is happening, and it's an amazing place.
Wow. And how did you first, I put the coordinates in just a minute ago, because that's what, I found online, but how did you, there's tags there with the victim's name right on the location. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. There, where the main plane hit the ground, it shattered a tree. And on that tree, they've actually got the initial name tags of each initial of the person that was on there. So at the main crash site, you have the cockpit, you have one of the engine cowlings, you have the landing gear in 2 different places. There's a bunch of debris out there. There's the wings and the tail section are about a kilometer off. So what's a kilometer? A kilometer is about 1.6, or 1 mile to 1.
It's the other way around. Yeah.
to 1.6 kilometers.
So it's like just over
three-quarters of a
half mile.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we do. I've never found. I've tried looking for them. I've never found them. They've been painted camouflage because too many airplanes flying over were reporting the crash debris.
They never retrieved it, huh?
The wings and the tail section they left there because they were too big. See, at the time of the crash, there was no logging roads out there. There was no logging roads out there. It had started a forest fire. Many people in my community watched the plane come down, including a lot of the forest rangers who were still sitting on top of the, they have the forest ranger buildings on top of mountains and hills.
Yeah, the fire towers.
The fire towers. And so a couple of them saw that. I know a guy personally who watched the plane come down.
Wow.
And then the community raced out there with backhoes and bulldozers and everything, cutting a trail right to get to the crash site. And when they got there, the fire was pretty much out. And one witness told me that she wasn't a witness. Her grandfather was part of the recovery crew when they went in there looking for the bodies. And they just saw, he said it was the most disgusting thing he's ever seen. There was body parts all over the place. And I'm going to sound really grotesque here for a second, but I think it's imperative as part of the story. One of the things that he witnessed was on one of the trees, he said it had intestines from people hanging off the branches like tinsel.
Awful.
And when you walk into this one area, you actually will see the chairs that were on the plane. Now that you can't see the padding or anything, but you see the metal of the chairs, and there's probably a dozen or two chairs out there that you can still see, and you're like, man, like this is where these people died, and what a horrific thing to go that way. And there's nobody in that area to rescue you because there's no roads. It was straight forest at that time. And it's still straight forest. It just has logging roads on it now. So it's a very solemn place, and it's very claustrophobic. It's and I encourage your listeners, if you don't mind, shameless plug here. Tim James and I on my YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio, we've actually been recording videos that we put out every couple weeks in a section called Secrets of the Forest. Now, I do want to forewarn people, we are amateurs. We have no major production going on. Okay, we're literally filming off a GoPro and an iPhone in 4K. Okay, so that's how we're filming. And we have strange anomalies that are happening all the time around us. And unfortunately, a lot of the times you miss it because there's only two of us. I don't have a giant team to draw from, and we've had a couple people try, but they've already been scared out.
Yeah. I don't think I'd want to be on that team, actually. I'm a big chicken when it comes to stuff like this.
Martin, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. My only, like I went with the Tedesco brothers out on Long Island and sat and watched them with their equipment. That's my type of, but not going deep in the woods. No, thank you. In the woods there, the old growth.
Yeah.
There's beautiful, beautiful forests up in that area, but, and there's a lot of it, which is, you can get lost pretty easy in places like that. So here's a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, please. You have a question.
Oh, here's a question here. What is the freakiest thing that happened to you so far?
Thank you, T-Bone. And I miss you, buddy. It is probably the voices in the forest. I've been scared. I've been scared there twice, like really scared twice. Martin, that night when we had the voices, we actually, we got startled by something running through the trees, literally maybe 40 feet from us. Okay. And this is an area, just so you know, we have to be armed. We are armed in there. A lot of Bigfoot hunters will say, hey, man, they don't like guns. Well, we know that. But we actually, you have to take guns in there. That area has grizzly bears, black bears, world record size cougars, wolf packs, moose.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
people don't know, but the main killer, wild animal killer in North America is the moose. It kills more people than bears and wolves combined. And we
I
have
had no idea.
yeah, and we have 15, 1,800 pound moose running around our forest. I mean, especially at this time of year when we're just about a month and a half away from the rut, it gets a little scary out there. So we have to go in armed. Like, give you an example. The first night we went out there filming back in May, literally we put our pointy sticks away, and 3 minutes after that, I watched a cougar run right across a trail. Saw the back end and the tail running right across a trail from us. And this was maybe 45 feet away.
Whoa.
Like you have to be careful. Never mind having to do with the Bigfoot. But this time when we had the I don't know if it was a Wendigo or a skinwalker that was trying to lure us into the trees. And it was all monotone voice. It was like, help me. I'm over here. Can you help me? And this went on and on and on. And I looked over at Tim and I said, dude, we ain't going over there, man. I said, I've seen way too much David Paulides stuff to know that this is how people go missing. And we went down one little trail that actually leads to the crash site. And just so we could hear it a little bit clearer. And the voice actually moved. So if we were up here at high noon, this one was like down. Well, let's see. That's on my side. We'll go over here. It was like at 4 o'clock over here. Then the sound moved up to 3 o'clock to be like even with us. This lady's voice, help me. I'm over here. And where I knew it wasn't human was when it said, I love you. I'm over here. And then it all of a sudden changed to a man's voice. We're over here. Can you help us? We're over
Did you have the mindfulness to have a recorder going? Were you able to catch any of this?
We had microphones going, but it was so far off in the distance, our microphones weren't strong enough to pick it up. Like we would have needed a parabolic microphone to hear it. Like we could barely hear it with our ears over top of the tinnitus that's in our ears. And then so I looked over at Tim and I said, do you want to go? And he's like, I'm like, I have no problem leaving. Because the one rule that him and I have is if we're not feeling it, that person can overrule the other person to leave. And Tim's like, no. Tim's like, no, let's push this a little bit. So we went back, we sit Tim down, we do what we call the Estes Method, where you blindfold and you put noise canceling headphones on, listening to a radio signal. And one of the beautiful parts about our area, Martin, is we have zero radio signal. There are zero radio stations being picked up in my area. Okay, zero. So it's all white noise on the FM dial going tick, 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 tick. Okay. And so a lot of people will say, well, you're just hearing DJs and commercials and using that as ghost voices. We have nothing out there. Nothing. You're not picking up a radio station whatsoever. You don't even get cell phone signal out there. So, like it's just amazing. So Tim sits down and I'm kind of asking Tim some questions. And within a couple seconds, he starts getting responses. And after a couple minutes, it starts getting very vulgar. A lot of F words being dropped. And then all of a sudden, I hear the lady's voice. Now, remember, we're up here. The lady's voice now moves over here and is closer to us, going, help me. I'm over here. Can you help me? And in the meantime, Tim gets this man's voice in the headphones saying, Dave, I know you. I said, where do you know me from? in your dreams. I'm like, oh God. Right?
Jeez.
That's probably the scariest. The second,
I would say I'd
yeah.
be so out of there so quickly.
The
You just
second
see a
scariest
streak.
was,
Yeah.
and it was a real cool scary. A friend of mine, Lolly, who is really struggling about going back there right now. She's First Nations. She came up there, and Tim couldn't make it that weekend, so it was just Lolly and I. And we have no cameras, nothing. We figured, you know what? Let's give them a break. Let's not film anything, and let's just see how this goes. So, as the one pattern that we've learned is that things start to happen at dusk, and we get to dusk, and all of a sudden, Lolly stands up. She's got her drum with her, and she's like, "Do you mind if I sing a song and drum?" She goes, "I really feel like I need to do this." I'm like, "Yeah, please, like go ahead." So she sings this beautiful indigenous song, and she's drumming along with it, and she sits down, and I can't understand it because I'm not First Nations. I don't speak her dialect. I only speak one language in English. And she sits down. I'm like, was that a welcoming song? I said, it really felt like it was a welcoming song. And she goes, yeah. She goes, I was just welcoming in all the elders and the spirits and everything. And she takes a deep breath. She puts the drum on her knee, and she's just kind of just relaxing. And we're like, that was just so beautiful. And all of a sudden, probably 40 yards into the trees around us, it was like somebody took a Louisville slugger to a tree. It was like bang, bang on this tree. And it made me jump up. And what the hell is this going on right now? Like I've
Wow.
heard tree knocks before. I've never heard tree knocks that close, man. Never
Wow.
that close.
That's scary. I guess they didn't want to be welcomed.
I
So
think they were just letting us know of their presence because they have fun with us.
yeah.
Do we have time for one more story?
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So this past Sunday, we went there, and this will come out on film in a couple of weeks. But Tim and I go in there, and it was like we were playing hike with them. And we have a gifting site tree out there that has some articles that we're trying to trade with them. They seem to like coins. And so we've got this giant tree that we use as a gifting site. This thing's probably 100 foot tall fir tree. It's just beautiful. And we walk into that area, and it just feels like there is something big watching us. And if you know anything about everything having an energetic symbol, when you're in the forest, you really pick up on nature. You can tell when something's watching you. You get the heebie-jeebies, the goosebumps on the arms, or going up your back of your neck, and you're trying through your Rolodex, your mental Rolodex. Okay, I've felt what it's like to be around deer. I felt what it's like to be around a cat. I felt what it's like to be around a bear. Because they all give off like different energy signatures, and believe it or not, everybody can pick this up if you're in the area. Not in just that area, but anywhere you are. And so we end up walking around, and I say to Tim, man, there is something big out here. So we go a little bit deeper into the forest, and Tim kind of looks back to his left, and he sees this white thing, probably the size of a wolf, all of a sudden run through this treed area. And we're like, Tim's like, I think we got wolves here, man. I think we're surrounded by wolves. And I'm like, okay, well, we're armed. Wolves aren't going to do anything to us. They're just going to watch us, right? And if the big guy comes, well, he'll have to eat a little lead. That's just the way it is. And so I said, well, let's go check it out. So we start making a beeline to that trail, and we get about 20 feet towards the trail, which is still another 60, 70 feet away. And Tim's like, let's stop right here. He goes, Dave, we can't go this way because that thing, the trail that it took off down, which we've been on that trail before, he goes, that will put it behind us on our exit. That's not safe. So I said, okay, well, let's go back to the gifting site and make our way around to it. So that's what we do. And as we're on our way there, Tim, out of the corner of his eye, all of a sudden he goes, oh, geez, Christ, he's flipping out because in that area now, as we're making our way to that trail, excuse me, he sees something big and brown take off into this meadow.
Hmm.
And it's a small meadow. It's only like, I don't know, 40 feet by 70 feet. It's very small. And so I said, Tim, that is where a couple weeks previous, we walked into that area, Martin. We couldn't breathe. Like, it was like there was no oxygen in this level, in this area.
Whoa, that's weird.
Yeah. So we go into that meadow, we can breathe, and Tim starts looking around, trying to figure out the direction. I said, okay, let's look at where's the exit points here. So we found the exit points. One's to the left where we just came in. Another one is to the left, but just kind of goes in on an angle. One is straight ahead of us, but it would have to climb over a bunch of down trees, which we would have probably heard. And there's an exit point to the right. So we're looking through this. Tim looks straight ahead, and about 100 feet away, he sees this head, this face right beside a tree. And then it disappears in behind the tree. Right. And it never came back out. So I kind of make my way down there a little bit because I guess I'm brave and I'm stupid. Right. And as far as I could go. And at that same point, Tim starts hearing noise to his left and he looks over and there is now a conical shaped head and the shoulders. And when Tim made eye contact with it, all of a sudden the head and the shoulders just dropped right down. And this thing disappeared. So we went back to where that one was, where Tim had seen it. And lo and behold, it's right beside our gifting site. Huh. So it was like they were playing, and it was such fun energy. And I know that sounds weird, but it's kind of like when you were playing hide and go seek with your kids, where it's like, okay, I'm going to find you. Where are you? And, you're looking for them and you can't find them, even though you see their toes dipping out from behind the curtains. Okay. It was kind of like that. There was just real fun energy about it. But when we got back to the gifting site, all of a sudden it was like, oh man, they don't want us here anymore. And I started having that feeling. I looked at Tim and I said, Tim, I think they brought us back here because this is familiar area, number one. It's a safe zone, number two. But number three, I said, I just get this feeling in my stomach that they're like, okay, fun is over. It's time for you guys to go back to your vehicle because we have a little base camp set up there with lawn chairs and a table. And he goes, I think that's what it is they're just trying to get us to go back to our vehicle because maybe they want to move around or whatever it may be. And Tim's like, he goes, weird you say that, man. He goes, I'm getting that feeling too. So we really trust our instincts and our feelings on this. We've recently introduced trail cams there. And
good idea.
Yeah. And we're going to be doing that a little bit more. But right now we're taking things really slow, Martin, because what we're trying to do is if the Sasquatch are there, we're trying really hard to build a trust with them. And you talk to a lot of Sasquatch researchers. They don't like trail cams. They don't like any sort of camera equipment. They don't like guns. Well, geez, we have a camera, we have a trail cam, and we have a gun. Okay, like we're 0 for 3 so far. But what we're trying really hard not to rush into any sort of communication. We want them to know that we're here for the long haul, and it's a fun side project to do, and that we're just having fun as two guys in their 50s, documenting this like children going in a haunted house.
Yeah, how about that? Hey, so I'm going to pop up one more question before we close for the night. Here's this one, and I just had to choose one. Sorry for all those people that ask questions. I do appreciate it, and I do appreciate you being here live. Have you looked into other instances where witnesses have reported a Bigfoot-type creature associated with UFO landing? Thank you, Chris.
Yes, and thank you, Chris. Yes, I have it. A lot of people I will talk to, especially when I'm hosting, is have you seen any occurrences of UFOs and Sasquatch brought together? And because the one thing that I've learned over probably the last 5 to 7 years is that a lot of this phenomena is tied together. It's not just the Bigfoot people are over here, the paranormal people are over here, and the woo psychic intuitives are over here. That we all have these eclectic areas that don't congregate together, and I think that's the wrong stigma that we're doing. I believe that the entire phenomena has everything under its belt. Flight 21 really encapsulates that, where we have the paranormal, we have the cryptids, we have the UFOs, we have the aliens, we have the mind speak going on, we have all of this weird high strangeness going on, and it's all in an area less than the size of a football field. And here we are kind of bouncing everything together, trying to figure out. One thing I would like to add, though, and it's a little off topic from the question, is a lot of the skeptics out there will say, well, how do you know it's a Sasquatch? You people always go towards the Sasquatch or the ghosts or the aliens first and foremost. And the reality is that we don't. We are looking for logic first. If you're not looking for logic first, you can't rule it out. But what we are doing is keeping an open mind that it can be that way. Example, we have found these 2 footprints. We've only seen 2 of them. And they are literally like giant duck prints. They're like, and we found 2 of them. They were about 90 yards apart.
Okay? Just 2.
Just 2. And I've been talking around, and a friend of mine all of a sudden says, I was reading an article the other day about local history, and apparently other people have found these duck prints, these giant duck prints that are, they're probably 18 inches long and probably 10 inches wide at the top, 12 inches wide at the top. Never seen it before. I don't know what it is. I mean, is Howard the Duck out there? I don't know, right? So
bizarre.
It's bizarre, man. But we find footprints almost every time we're there, and it's not, we can't cast any of them because the ground is so dry and hard there. But we find footprints probably, this past weekend we did. That was probably one of 2 times since May that we haven't found prints there.
Wow. Well, Dave, thanks so much. It's been a real pleasure to have you on the show tonight.
Martin, you are one of the best. Back. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. So we'll be talking real soon.
Look forward to it, my friend.
All right. You take care.
Take care, my friend.
All right, everyone. So check out this Thursday night right here on this YouTube channel, or if you're in the podcast feed, we have Katie Page going to be talking about her experience at the ranch in Colorado. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here and listening, watching, etc. And we'll see you soon. Keep your eyes to the